70% on the nose. Let's see. Let's see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? We die. But probably not. Probably not.
Hello, Dave and Tim here at the Single Malt Review for our first visit to a rather special distillery with a rather special whiskey.
Yeah, the confluence of events that saw this thing on the table is broad, and I'm going to explain them. I was recently at Dramfest 2023, just last weekend, and thank you to all the people that came out and said hello. I was actually astonished that many people knew or cared about the channel, but hey, they're out there, obviously, problem people everywhere. But thank you in particular to Ian and the Wellington Whiskey Gang for this one, who proffered this tin of Octomore, while I was in a rather busy state, also beladen with whiskey from Waiheke on the floor there. And it wasn't until I got home and actually examined it that I realised what had happened. I glanced at it and thought, oh, Octomore, that'll be fun to have a look. Everyone loves a bit of Octomore, hilariously peated whiskey. And then I actually read it and looked it up, and I thought, oh, damn, oh, crap. Almost war on the channel, gave us an M rating. But this is not just Octomore. This is significantly more serious business in a way that we are going to have to really, really outdo ourselves to do justice. This is the, I guess you'd aptly named, I don't know, the Octomore 4X plus 10. And what it is maybe the worst idea in distilling? I don't know. It's a lot of effort to go into it's a funny old thing. Yeah. It is 4 times distilled Octomore that is then aged for 10 years. 10 years in a range of casks, those being bourbon, sherry, and sweet wine. And it's very, very, very special stuff.
Yes.
Absolutely unavailable, catastrophically unavailable, made in astonishingly limited quantities, and it is now done. This expression is finished, out of there, done.
It's version 0.2, is that correct?
Well, they're calling it 0.2. Octomore likes to put a lot of numbers and funny gaff on their bottles. I don't take it too much to heart. But yeah, what this is, the takeaways is, 4 times distilled, peated at a fairly flabbergasting 162, although we'll come back around to that, because once you distill something that many times, then there are other forces at work. And then the big one for this, aged 10 years. So I will pull this one to give it a bit of air, a bit of headroom. Yeah. This is also, I should note, this is going to be a couple of firsts for the channel. 70% ABV.
How? A Scotch whiskey which is 10 years old and still a blistering 70% ABV, 140 proof.
This is well, as discussed, not any Scotch whiskey, but curiously, after 4 times distillation, the final strength on this one was an absolutely eye-watering 89% ABV. Shockingly strong, almost exceeding the legal definition for what can be physically called Scotch whiskey, which I think is something like 94 point something arbitrary. But so it had a bit of headroom to go, but it was close. It was really close to just being kicked out for being too strong, which is I would have considered that a bit of a badge of honour, really. But anyway. It's immensely strong stuff. Yeah. Goodness knows how much water they actually gave it before they filled it into the casks. They surely didn't put it in at full strength. All those casks would have just slowly caught fire in the corner of the warehouse. And whether or not the 70% is cask strength or not is another question mark. I looked, I could not find out. But what it is surely, I don't even have to look this up, the strongest whiskey we've ever tried on the single malt.
We've had overproof rum around the 70% mark before, but when it comes to whiskey, this is just beyond weapons grade. This is almost illegal. Yeah, pretty mental stuff. I kind of love the bottle. It's got a smoked glass kind of a treatment. Yeah, it's a half litre, obviously a smaller bottle, but you get so much more whiskey in this size. So
you'd have to say a little goes a long way when you're dealing with.
This is going to be a heck of an introduction to Bruichladdich on the channel. We haven't been avoiding them or anything, just by coincidence. We've never fully reviewed a Bruichladdich before.
Haven't really got it out there. They're a pretty sleepy distillery. When they're not making Bruichladdich, they've got their PC Port Charlotte range, which is kind of turned into their main liner. Really, they've kind of rebranded as the heavily peating distillery. And I guess if you're on island, that's what people want. That's what people come there for. But the old Bruichladdich by Bruichladdich was I thought was a really, really nice. When they had the Laddie 10 for that hot weekend there, that was an incredible whiskey. So we're going in completely blind. I have not pre-tasted this one. I've barely pre-nosed this one.
Of course, this was a pre-loved bottle, which has been
for sure. So
tried and sampled.
It should have had all the air it needs. So we'll dive in here and see what we get. 70% on the nose. Let's see. Let's see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? We die. But probably not. Probably not.
That is alarmingly gentle
okay.
on the nose for 70. It's got a bit of a menthol hit, a cool burn.
I should be using the laboratory technique here, maybe.
That is actually a gift that keeps on giving. It gets stronger over time, as you would well expect.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a sort of a gradated approach. Here, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm picking up aroma. And now it's not fine anymore. The moment the nose actually goes inside the glass, then there is acute pain, which is not the whiskey's fault.
Interestingly, though, that intensity I think is from the alcohol. It's not like the very strong.
Oh, it's from the alcohol. That's for sure.
Not the aroma though. There's all kinds of sweetness and honey, and some florals. Well, I'm not getting a massive amount of peat just yet, despite being in a astonishingly peated whiskey.
Well, I sort of come back around to that. Given that this has been 4 times distilled, there's more forces at work here than one would normally expect from typical island whiskey. Every time you distill spirit, and I'm by no means a chemist here, you're going to purify it. And one of the things you're going to purify is those peated phenolics. So I think as peated as this one may have started life at, after 4 times round the still, there's no way it's going to hold on to all of those ppms. True. So it's intrinsically going to be a softer kind of an experience. So difficult to approach. I'm approaching this one a bit like a lion tamer in a chair here, because if I get too close, the savagery. Yeah. Yep, that's as far as I can get. Okay, so we'll, against maybe medical advice, we will try this one full strength and just to see what happens. Yeah.
70% ABV. This is not a good idea. Maybe don't do this at home if you've got one of these, but... Oh, there's a peat. And also just a... Oh, wow.
You know what? That's remarkably okay.
I'm remarkably not okay. That is so intense. There is a burn. There is...
Dave might have gone in too heavy on that one.
That was a very small sip, but it is prickling across my tongue, roof of my mouth. It's kind of evaporated into mist before it's even reached my throat, though.
Goodness me. That is really unusual. That is so earthy.
It is the quintessentially sort of grubby coal and grease fire Isla peat.
There is there's almost no fruit there. Normally, even in the most peated whiskies, you'll get some underlying lemon, citrus, or some fruity component. There isn't there at all, but there's such this overwhelming mineral and earth component to it. It's almost kind of laughing in the face of 10 years in barrel.
That absolutely ludicrous 70% ABV is almost certainly concealing or adding to some of those characters. Yeah. I'm going to add a very generous slug of water.
We're going to need some water. One more.
Okay, that is now that's some visiometric swirling happening there. It looks like I'm looking through agar jelly or something. It's just full of like shimmering ripples.
So this is uncoloured, unchill filtered. The alcohol is so pure by this point that I don't think it's going to cloud.
Lemon, there's a hint of fish, some oily fish like sardines.
Right, well now we have the benefit. We have the benefit now of actually being able to get our noses inside the glass, which I fundamentally could not before. So yeah, this teases it apart a wee bit. It's still really, really earthy. Almost gravelly is not a smell. It's very much a texture.
Yeah,
but there's a nasal crunch to this.
There's an intense minerality on the tongue now. It's full of flinty, limestoney goodness. Reminding me of some dry white wines from particularly minerally regions.
Yeah, dry is a good note as well. It's just the absolute first touch with the tongue is actually quite profoundly sweet, and that's probably the alcohol, because alcohol does come through quite sweet as a flavour.
There is a touch of crystallized ginger and some very strong lemon citrus as well.
Yeah, the citrus I'm starting to pick up. The ginger I'm not. There's... goodness me, what a weird whiskey.
Yeah. What are those casks again? It was bourbon and what was the rest?
It is bourbon, it is sherry, and then it is sweet wine. So not particularly far off the beaten track for maturation. But for something that has been so purified, I was actually expecting more of a grain spirit note.
Okay.
Grain spirit being something that's usually distilled very, very, very strong, not uncommon to this one, although in that case through the machinations of column stills, continuous stills, and then, intrinsically light-bodied on its own, but it's not at all. We're not getting any of the sort of Russian fudge jelly bean notes that you would from grain alcohol. It's completely its own thing. And I'm wondering whether the peat has gone or whether the peat has changed.
Oh, it's very much there. It's been subdued and probably transformed somewhat, but this is still predominantly a heavily peated whiskey. It took a little water to bring some of that to the fore, but...
Well, this is still arguably about 50% ABV, so I'm going to put some more in, get close to that 40, see if anything magic happens.
Take mine down a little further as well.
Still no cloud, and I don't think it's coming. I don't think there's any fats or proteins in here to make any cloud occur. It's slowly turning back into whiskey. I should say. It's almost got...
There are some florals starting to appear on the nose.
It's got a bit of an Ardbeggy thing going on now. Quite ropey, quite tarry now. It's almost like we're fashioning whiskey slowly in the glass as we restore it to, in a sane drinking strength. All right. This is a weird whiskey for weird people. You already knew that. The judgment we have to make here, and it's going to be a tough one, is this good? Is this good on its own merits, or is it good because it's some completely whacked experiment thing that has never been done before? There's been a few experiments with quadruple distilled whiskey. I think Bruichladdich has done it maybe once, maybe twice before, but it's otherwise pretty jolly uncommon, because why would you do it? It's just not. It's almost an anathema to everything that malt whiskey is, because malt whiskey is malt whiskey because of that flavour, that intensity, that lack of purity. To purify it, to turn it sort of closer and closer to vodka, what are you doing at that point? What are you doing? And I think that remains a pretty good question for Bruichladdich, but Bruichladdich is not at home to that sort of questions. They're there on their bull honky all day, and they will experiment as they see fit. That's just kind of the Bruichladdich way. But
I've certainly enjoyed trying it. It is so wildly different. It's such a audacious experiment. I couldn't possibly rate it down.
With that last bit of water, it's now got the most struck match. It would put Ben Nevis to shame. There's a whole box going on here now. What a bizarro thing. Okay. So here's the ultimate question: is this good or is it novel? We know it's novel. We've definitely come around to that. It gets an A+ for novelty whiskey. In terms of its intrinsic quality, line this whiskey up with another example, an Ardbeg 10-year-old, something infinitesimally priced compared to this one, and far less weird. It's a tough one. I think, all things considered, judging it on its own merits strictly, this is an 86 from me. And I think that's as fair, and you might call that ruthless, but I think looking at this in a vacuum and ignoring all of the special treatment it's had, which is its own ethereal things, I think it's an 86 from me. What do you think?
Well, as absurd and implausible it's going to sound, 86 was the number I was centering on in my head too. It is a very good whiskey. It is very tasty. It's interesting. It has astonishing novelty value. It's not something that's moorish or easy to sip or easy to come back to or to ruminate on. It is a bold, bombastic flavour experiment, which is, it's also good and enjoyable. It's not a stunning whiskey to drink or to sip or to ruminate on. If it combines peak novelty with being good and tasty, especially with a lot of water added. So 86 is a very fair score, I believe.
Well, can't get fairer than that. The universe has decreed from the masters of the universe here at the Single Malt Review. Cheers once again to Ian and the Wellington Whiskey Gang. It sounds like you guys run one hell of a goddamn tasting if whiskies like this show up in it. My goodness. So I hope to see representatives from the Whiskey Gang in the future, and please keep in touch and let me know what you're up to, because you're proper whiskey madmen over there.
The best kind.
Absolutely. And this is a whiskey just for you guys, I'm sure. All right, Slanger, thank you very much.